Hi, Run Your Story family. This is Alison with Run Your Story, where every story needs to be heard. And what a story we have for you guys. But I am going to warn you, you're going to want a tissue or a box of tissues. Or if you're getting ready for a run, please take something that you can cry on and then have snot rockets on, because you're going to be feeling all the emotions. And that is because we sit down with Josh Coleman, who is the author of Moving Forward, Running with Grief. And I cannot recommend this book more. It is 10 out of 10. And this book is so necessary because whether you have experienced grief or you are a family member or a friend who has friends or family that's going through grief and you don't know how to respond, Josh talks about all of this in the book. And I was very honored that I got to read this book ahead of time. And so we got to talk a lot about this book. And it is so, so good. And Josh talks about practical ways to be there for people and how the running community transformed for him. And one of the biggest takeaways from Josh, and here I am getting emotional already, is to show up for your people, just to be there. And that's just absolutely incredible. And guys, the amount of nuggets of knowledge that he drops in this story, and it's just incredible. And the love he has for running community is spectacular. Wait till you guys hear what he does now. Incredible. How he honors his late wife's story, Erin, is just beautiful. Absolutely incredible. Because Josh is an ultra marathoner, and his mantra is relentless forward progress, both in life and in the trails, and it's true. And he just encourages to try hard things, to go out there, and don't forget to live. Don't forget to be present. Just show up for people. And in the running community, there is a place for everyone. And I absolutely love that. And you guys are just going to love his story. You're going to love who he is. You're going to be so excited. And again, if you're running, and I'm sorry if you start crying, if you're listening and you have a pen and notepad, you're going to want to take notes because, again, he gives so much knowledge throughout this story. And I'm incredibly grateful to Josh and the time that he took to share his heart, and that his mission is that running is just to get people across the finish line, both in life and in a race. So, I know you're already tearing up. I am too. With that being said, guys, I'm incredibly thankful for somebody like Josh to take the time to not only share his story in a book, but also on this podcast. So thank you, Josh, for your story. And thank you for who you are as a person and just all the things. Thank you so very much. And again, thank you to Gilliard Tech Services for our incredible website and for editing our podcast, and for our Patreon family members. We love you guys. We're incredibly thankful for you, for all that you do, and for making Josh's story possible. It is because of you and the love and support and making sure that Run Your Story is taken care of. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all that you do. We love you guys, and we're so incredibly thankful for that and for you. With that being said, guys, lace up your running shoes, get ready, get set, and go run with my friend Josh and his book, Moving Forward, Running with Grief. Well, thank you, Josh, for being here. So honored to have you, because not only are you this incredible ultra runner, hitting the trails, doing all these incredible things that you're doing, but you're also an author. And I do want to take a moment because I highly recommend this book, Moving Forward. It is just outstanding. It's very hard to read for those that are listening. And I think it's so important because you say it so much throughout this book, because the book is about grief and part of your story. So I'm going to let you talk about it. But how important it is not only for those that are going through grief, but the community that comes around and surrounds that person that's going through grief. It is a phenomenal book. And like I said, it's very hard to read because you are an excellent writer. And I was crying because it was just so emotional. And I could just feel the love that you had for your wife and that you have for your wife. And the things that you're doing to keep not only her legacy alive, but also intertwining yours is outstanding. So thank you for writing the book. I know that was not an easy thing to do, but thank you for being here and for wanting to share your story.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alison. Wow, you wrapped that up really well and nicely. Yeah, this was obviously a very emotional book to write, but I felt like it was necessary to
Mm,
write, and you hit it. And this is what I share with everybody. The main reason why I wrote this book was to keep Erin's legacy alive. And I wanted to really capture her in the pages of the
mm,
book. So people that didn't know her or never met her before, like a lot of my trail running community, I wanted them to know who Erin
mm,
was and what she meant to me and just the impact she made in my life. We were together for almost 20 years, and obviously these things are going to happen. And then when they do, just how surreal it is and just what a gut punch it was for me. And so it took me several months to processing it, but I knew early on, within the first few months I wanted to write this book, I was like, I need to share this story because a lot of people were just really impressed how I was able to handle it. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. Obviously, our relationship was incredibly strong. We were closer than ever. We spent a lot of great years. And it's really interesting because it really was at a very pinnacle part of our life. We had just bought a brand
mhm,
new house in Florida and our careers were going well. And you're just like at this pinnacle of life. And then all of a sudden, I'm hit with this gut
mm,
punch. And then you just start reeling and trying to make sense of it all. And it doesn't make sense in the early days. And it's raw and it's emotional and you're going through all these emotions. But I wanted to never run from the grief.
mhm,
And that's why it's called Moving Forward Running with
mm,
Grief, because I truly believe that you don't just get over this and move on or anything like this. But what you do is you learn to move forward with the grief because the grief is going to stick with you. And I truly believe it's been 3.5 years. This grief will always be with me. And it's not that it's this heavy burden all the
sure,
time. It's just something you carry with you with
mm,
grace and you honor. And that's what I want to do. And I still talk about her a lot and share with her a lot. And yeah, so that was the reason for the book. And obviously to help me with my own grief, writing it out, sharing pages. And then third, just being able to share this with other people. So hopefully they could glean something from it and not trying to tell people how to
sure.
grieve because I never want to do that, but I want to share how I grieved and hopefully that makes a positive impact.
Mm. It really is. I want to say this too, having not ever met Erin or you prior to this podcast,
Yeah.
I felt like through this book, I got to know two extraordinary people that
Mm,
I just was like, man, I just want to go hang out with them. I love because both my kids are really big into it. We went and saw Broadway. So when you were talking about Broadway, because for those that
yeah.
haven't read the book, spoiler alert, Erin is
Yeah.
into theater. She's really big in music and loved Broadway, loved theater. And
Yes.
so being somebody that's not really of that world, but having been able to watch a Broadway show in New York and we saw Lion King, and I just was impressed by the athleticism of those that were on stage because they were hopping around, jumping around, singing, like never missed a note. And you're just like, well, this is incredible. Absolutely extraordinary. And I love because in your book, you talk about that one of your playlists is Broadway music, like music that makes you think of Erin or her favorite songs. And I thought, I'm like, man, that is just such a cool way to honor somebody. But then also, again, like I said, I feel like I just got to know you guys. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, what an incredible couple.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's so interesting too, because a lot of people always ask me since I'm so involved in the ultra
Mhm,
running community now, oh, was Erin a runner? I always have to, Erin actually hated running, but she did like to walk.
mhm,
And unfortunately, she did have herniated disc and
mm,
some back problems and things like that. But she was very much about obviously staying healthy. But yeah, it's interesting when we met, I thought we were really these like opposites attract. And I was friends with her brother and she was into Broadway and I didn't at that time. I was like, what's Broadway? Maybe I'd heard of Cats or like Phantom
sure.
of the Opera, maybe some of these bigger ones or like thinking about movies like Grease or something like
Mhm,
that. A lot of us have seen some of these movies, but yeah, she totally introduced me to a whole world that I was blown away. And you're right, there's nothing like live theater. And if they make mistakes, you probably won't even know they
mhm,
make mistakes because they're so good at capturing that. And that was really one of the reasons why we moved to New York was so we could be closer to Broadway. She could go see all the shows
mm,
and yeah, it was her passion. She loved community theater and it's always was cool because I was the runner and so we never were competing. We were these like competing actor and actresses in the house. It's like she had her thing and I was her biggest fan and I had my thing and she was my biggest fan. So that's what really helped complement each other. And so, yeah, I still got the Broadway playlist that I play. And that's another way for me just to honor her. And yeah,
I love that because you brought up something really good, and, we're gonna get to the run story. I know some listeners are like, "Allison, come on now," but one of the things you just brought up was that you weren't competing because also she wasn't running, but she was a part of that, and you do talk about in the book
yes,
at your first ultra, it hitting you that she wasn't there, and she would have had some little snazzy sign, like, with that had music intertwined with running, something like that, which I thought was
yep,
adorable. But then also, here you are, this runner, and again, there's running, but then there's trail running, and then there's ultra running. And just so laid back and everything. And so to imagine you going to theater and supporting your wife in that and her role, I think was just the sweetest, most cute thing I had ever read, because I was like, that is showing that two people can have two totally different passions, but yet come together and support one another and just showing up for each other. And I was like, that is what life is. But that's also what the running community is. I don't have to agree with everything that you like, but I'm going to show up for you. And I thought that was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I always tell people, I think the hardest thing for me, yes, she was my wife and partner, but she was my best friend. We were each other's best friends. And I think that's the part that's been the hardest for me, is the best friend aspect. And yeah, and you hit it on the head. Like, we were just about supporting each other, making each other successful and everything we can and support. So yeah, I would go to all our shows, and maybe not all of it if it was a 5 or 6 day run type
Mhm,
thing. But then a lot of times I'd go usher, I would just help out behind the
mhm.
scenes and do things like that. Cause it's interesting. She was an introvert, but when she was on stage, I mean, the character came out
Mhm.
and she was funny and she had incredible stage presence. And I think I write about this in the book as well, and just how much she helped people behind the
Yeah.
scenes. And she was always the assistant director. Like, she'd be helping out, making sure people were in their places. Cause again, this was her
Mhm.
passion. I mean, you can read this in the pages. She just absolutely loved it. And again, it is a book about running. You have to have your partners that support you. And you get that out here
Mhm.
too. I know husbands or wives that are out here that maybe not runners either, but they're here to support their spouses to be successful. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
important. And that's part of what partnerships and relationships are about, is supporting. And it's a give and take, but you can't just be taking, it's sharing life
Mhm.
together, and you have to do that in the right way. And so that's what we did. And we were always each other's biggest fans, and that's how we rolled.
That's beautiful. And a challenge for all of us. Absolutely. So in the book, you talk about before you met Erin that you were a runner. So let's go to that era. So, Josh, how did you start running? Because you really got into ultras later on. So, how does this story begin for you? How did you become a runner?
Sure. As a kid, I loved to
Mm,
run. Like, I was a bit of a kid that was diagnosed with ADD and kind of didn't know that
okay.
until several years ago again, because it was like not talked
Mm-hmm.
about. I'm 49, so this was like early
Mm-hmm.
80s, and they had prescribed some, I think it was Ritalin or something at the time. And my mom just said, you were just too lethargic and it felt like it took your spirit away. And I was like, that was, and so she just put me in soccer. So I loved to run. I was running around. There wasn't really track competitions back then, but when I was in 6th grade, we had to run the mile. And so when we ran it, I just ran as fast as I could, because I was always the kid that couldn't do the 40-yard dash. Everybody else would beat me. Like, my long, lanky legs would just took too long to get going, but I could outrun everybody. And so I won the mile that year in 6th grade. I think actually me and another kid tied. So I was like,
Oh,
oh, okay. And so then when you get into middle school, then they have track and cross country. So I did that. But then our a bunch of elementaries dump into one middle school, like most school
yeah.
districts do. And so then you get a little bit more competition. So then I wasn't the fastest. I was like, okay. And so I ran in junior high and a little bit of high school, but then unfortunately I ended up becoming let's just say I was a party kid, and I probably like to have a little too much fun. And so I did that a lot of my teenage years and very early 20s, and then finally got out of that phase. And that's when I met Erin, but I wasn't necessarily running too much then, but gained a little weight. And so I started running again, because then I think I was playing a lot of softball
Okay.
and things like that, rec sports. But yeah, just age started catching up. And so I think it was my late 20s, started running again, and then didn't run my first marathon until I think I was like 33. We were living in Kansas City at the time where I grew up, ran 2 marathons there. And then I'd run some 4 milers, 5Ks, 10Ks. I think I ran maybe another couple half marathons. So yeah, just wasn't consistent, back and
Mhm.
forth, run for a while, but then fall off. And then we moved to New York when I was 36 or 37, and had a very stressful marketing job and digital marketing job. And
Mhm.
so I needed a release again. And so I started running, and then got into my 40s, and then went back to, I want to qualify for Boston. So I
Wow.
found the New Jersey Marathon, and I was like, okay, when do I got to qualify? I think I was like 320 or something. So I hired a coach, and I put in the work and ran the New Jersey Marathon. I think this is in 2018, and ran a 309. So didn't get cut off, and then ran it in 2019. Erin came and made shirts, like you were talking about the signs. and didn't have a great race. Ended up having a bit of a foot injury, but finished. And yeah, then from there, I took time off. So that was 2019. And then with my foot, so went back to not running much, but maybe just occasional runs here and there. And then we were living in New Jersey, New York. So I was still walking a lot. So able to keep the fitness up. And then COVID hit. And then we were actually on the New Jersey side at the time in Jersey City. And it was just like, I couldn't just stay inside. Like, I'm not an inside person. I got to be outside. So I did everything I could just to go outside and just started running. That's where I became more of a everyday runner. And then it just started snowballing from there, and then still didn't do ultras until, so we ended up moving to Florida, and I think I signed up for a half marathon. I got third place. And so I was like, all right, let's keep this going. And so then the ultra didn't happen until after Erin passed away in June of 2022. Actually, I had signed up for the Miami Marathon. I ran that, but I was already starting to do trails, and I was like, oh, I love this. That was in January 23. I ran the Miami Marathon, trying to qualify for Boston again. Got the qualifying time, but only by 90 seconds.
Wow.
So, and then I got the old Boston cutoff, so I didn't make it in. But then a friend of mine, literally a week after that, was like, hey, I'm doing this trail 10K. You want to do it with me? I was like, sure. So I ran that, won it. Then I did like a 10 miler. And then it was in May of 23, I ran my first 50K in Florida called Sweat, Swat, and Swear, and got fourth. And then, just a snowball from there. We can talk about some of the other races I've done, but that's when I did my first ultra. So I'm fairly new to the ultra world. So I feel like I'm still learning a lot.
Absolutely incredible. Oh my goodness. I think one of your stories that was, I think you were talking about your first 100 miler, and you just were like, I was drained. I hit the wall. Like, I was done. And I don't want to give too much away again about the book, but you carry something very significant with you that reminds you of Erin. And so you touched it. And then I love how you shared about how she was like, you can't quit. You're not going to quit. Keep going.
Yep.
And I love that. And you talk about the tenacity and the perseverance of Erin and how that got you through your run. And one of the things that you talk about in the book, and I'm going to quote you here, is that the running community is filled with people carrying invisible memorials, each step a tribute to the love that transcends physical presence. And that has just stuck with me, because we're called Run Your Story for a reason, because you never know what someone's story is when they're in the trail or they show up to a 5K or a 10K, whether it's they've gotten the best news of their life or they've gotten the worst news of their life, whether just showing up was the hardest part or they're about to accomplish something big. And so for you to have that saying in that book, it just cut me to my core, because I was like, that is just it's so true. Like, we only see the outward. And one of the points in your book is that you talk about there's no right way or wrong way to grieve. And as you said, like, again, in the book, that it's not over. Grief just doesn't end. You move on through the grief. And I appreciate you bringing that very hard truth that so many of us needed to hear, but then also to remember that you never know who is going through what when they show up to these races.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So one of the things I contribute to that is, with that tenacity, you were talking about that story and just think about some of the things that Erin went through. And with her, I remember it was right before Boston, about 4 months, it was right around the holiday in 2018. She started getting incredible back pain, and she had to get this herniated disc fixed. And she finally did 2 weeks after I ran Boston. And the surgeon that did the surgery, I think Erin was probably around 35, 36 at the time. And the surgeon told me, and he was so proud, this is the most herniation I've ever taken out of someone's back. And he was like, as most surgeons, this sounds weird, but as most surgeons, it's like almost like a badge of honor, like they were proud of it. And he literally came through the waiting room to show me. Most of the time, the surgeons don't come up, the nurse will come up, but he wanted to show me. And that's when I knew Erin was tough, but I was like, I don't think I knew how, like, she was tough. And so when I was climbing up, this was after, so my first 100 was the Bighorn 100 up in Wyoming. And there was a aid station called Sally's Footbridge. And this is the in-between, because this is the out and back race. And I came back and it was like 66 miles and I got sick. And this is the first time I've ever thrown up in a race. And I was laying there and I was like, I don't know, something just told me you got to go. And so I started and I was hurting bad.
Mhm.
Like every 10
Sure.
steps, I'm like, I think it was like a four, maybe it was like a 4 mile climb up to the next aid station, but it felt like 12. And I'm climbing up and I could just hear Erin telling me, you don't quit. And I never wanted to quit. And I just kept
Mhm.
pushing. And yeah, and so many times when I was out there, I was sharing with other people about what had happened and sharing my story. And it really, what it's done, Allison, is it's really opened up other people to share their
Sure.
story. And I feel like in so many of those moments when I was talking to people about grief or trauma that they went through, I realized, okay, I can be this. I never thought in my almost 50 years of life that I would become this grief advocate.
Mm.
If I can share, then other people tears down the walls, because you're right. You never know what people are going through, and they can have a smile on their face, but yeah, they may have just lost a job, or maybe their kids battle an addiction, or there's so many things that we just don't
Yeah.
know. And so I wanted to be able to just keep sharing my story and let people open up about, and it may not be a loss, or it could be just trauma they've gone through. And I've had several friends that have become friends of mine that they've shared their story. Hey, I went through this as a kid, or this happened. And I think it's just so important because life is messy
Mhm.
and life is chaotic. And if we can share our stories and then we can connect with one another, then I think it just helps us to continue to go forward. And one of the points you were talking about is, just because of trauma or grief or something's happened doesn't mean that your story
Mm.
ends. Your story
Yeah.
continues. Like, you got to keep going and you got to keep moving forward. And so that's what I've done. And so I just want to continue to do that and share people, like, it's okay. Like, things happen and bad things are going to happen to people. And so when you can learn that and continue, and I always say, try to find those silver
Mhm.
linings, and you have to be careful not to share them too early or figure, but I keep just trying to find the silver linings, like when things happen. And I hope other people can do the same, and to know that it's okay. The pain, all that, it's part of life. And it's because we love,
Mm.
when we love other in our lives, and we have to continue to be strong and move forward and share each other's life. So when somebody else is going through something, we can be the strong people for them. And so that's what I want to be able to do for others. And if they're struggling or going through something, they can see my story. And mine's a story of 1,000,
Mhm.
but I want to be able to continue to share the story and just let people know that it's okay. The pain hurts and you're not alone. You're going to feel alone at times. I felt alone at times, but knowing that other people are struggling and going through other things. And so we can come together as a community and fight for each other and be there for each other, even when life can be extremely hard and cruel at times. Know that there's silver linings. There's great people out
Mhm.
there that want to help you and help you be successful, not in just life, but also on the trails. And that's what I love about the running community. Even out here, there's 10 different, I'm out across the years right now, and there's just people just cheering each other
Mhm.
on. And I just think it's beautiful.
Absolutely. Oh, I love how you said that we have to come together and fight for each other.
Mhm.
That's so good. And be there to cheer each other on. I love that.
Yeah.
So, without taking lessons from the book, because I told you earlier before we started, I was like, Josh, I took so many notes for this book. And it's like you said, it is a grief book, but there's so many lessons in this book that I just was
Mm.
like, wow. In all seriousness, I feel like I became better after reading this book. I was like, wow, what an impact that it's made on me. So, what are some lessons that you've learned from running?
Wow, that's a lot. One of the things, I'll back up a little bit, that I've taken into my
Mhm.
running, and especially the ultras, is patience. One of the things that Erin really taught me, because I was this go-go. I was talking about a little bit about the hyperactive kid, and she was just very even keel, and I would get out of balance, and she would always just teach me about patience. And so one of the things I've definitely have done, and knowing that the race is never over, and I did 3 200s this last year, and the first two, I had a lot of problems that kept me down. And I did the Tahoe 200, and I got this thing that's known there now. It's called the Tahoe lung, where you just get this congestion thing going
Mm.
on. And not sure if it's the dust from the trails or it's the pollen or a combination thereof. And I just knew that I got to keep moving, and it's okay. Even if you're not having your race, you can step back or just take a rest. And that's what's nice about some of these really long
Mhm.
ones, is there's a lot of grace and time. And so I was able to fight through it to get to the finish. And then when I was at Bigfoot, I did that in August, and I got extremely sick, like dry heaving. And I ended up spending 9.5 hours at an aid station just resting and
Wow.
recovering,
Mm.
and then kept
Mhm.
going, and then got sick again and kept going. And I had a lot of great friends out there that are help pushing me, because I don't like to quit
Mhm.
things. I do have one DNF, But if I'm still healthy and I can move my legs, I want to keep
Hmm.
going. And so that's one of the things I think that's taught me is just, yeah, you just, until you're out, until they say you're cut off, you're in it. And I understand sometimes you got to DNF because of physical injuries, things like that. I'm not criticizing that at
True.
all. But there is the human spirit and there is something about grinding and doing hard things. And after what I went through and what many people like coming out here and doing these, yeah, they're hard, but I'll never go through anything as hard as what I went through with Erin,
Mm.
that I can think of in my life. And so I like the challenge. And so, yeah, so I think it's the patience, the tenacity, don't give up, don't quit. It's like life.
Re-
It's just like they say life is, it's not a race. It's a marathon. I think it's an ultra marathon. So many ups and downs, especially after you do an ultra, like 100+ race. There's so many things going on. And I don't know how many times I've cried on the trails.
Yeah.
I just laughed and just, but yeah, I don't know. And people, some family members don't quite get it. Like they're so very
Mhm.
supportive, like all my family, they may never get it, but that's okay. They live vicariously
Yeah.
through me. But that's why I always tell people, yeah, you got to do
Mhm.
100. And they're like, should I do a 200? I'm like, absolutely, you should do a 200 because it's such a long race. You
Yeah.
don't have to be
Mhm.
fast. You just got to keep moving.
Really.
And you may hike most of it or all of it. As long as you can keep moving, get a little rest within a 24-hour period. Yeah, that's the beauty of these races. And so that's why I love it. And
Wow. Mm. There's a mantra that you talk about in your book, which is relentless forward progress, because
mm,
it goes hand in hand with running and grief. Because it's not that it's easy moving forward. It's just that it's not an option. You have to
yeah,
keep going. And just like what you said, until they kick you off the course, you got to keep going because they're not coming to pick you up. You got to
yeah,
go. So yeah, I love that you talked about that in the book. And then just how you said, like, just the mental aspect of it, I'm gonna grind this out and life is hard as it is. So here we are.
yeah. There we are. Yeah, I think that it is. And so many people, I've talked people out of quitting at aid stations when I volunteered,
Mm.
and they've come up to me after and they're like, thank you so
Oh.
much. And that's goes back to the support. And even though some people obviously don't run these to be
Mhm.
competitive, it's just like some people I know, like doing their first one. My friend Jan here ran her first ultra at 70 years old. And there's so many people knowing that you can do this. And we were all there cheering her on. And even people that are maybe like, well, as we've called front of the pack that are maybe competing, they still want each other to be
Mhm.
successful. And it's about getting people across the finish line. And that's what life's about is being strong and relentless forward
Yeah.
progress. And yeah, that's the beauty of it. And yeah, it's hard. Sometimes you throw up, sometimes you get sick, sometimes you're hurting everywhere. But once you cross that finish line and get that buckle, there's just nothing like it. And you have no regrets. And that's
Mhm.
what life's about is just not having regrets and putting it all out there. And that's what I learned early on in life. Somebody once told me is I'd rather have a life of oh wells than a life of what
Mm.
ifs. That's what it's to live our
Mm.
lives and don't have any regrets. Try hard things, get out of your comfort
Try.
zone because you'll thank yourself later for it.
Mm. That's good. Oh, wow. Okay. Shifting a little bit. I got to know, do you have a favorite race?
Ooh, so far, I love them all, but Moab was very special this last year because the weather was
Okay.
crazy. And it's the longest one I've ever done. And yeah, that one, there's just so much variety. You run through flat rock, red rock type stuff, and then you're up in the mountains. But this year they had, I think it was remnants from a
Mm.
hurricane and blew back through Arizona and southern Utah. And it was just raining. All the washes were washed out. We're just trudging through water. And I don't know, like I started to just get to a point like we're all in this together. I feel like a little kid and there's several mountains you climb
Mm.
through and ranges you go through. And yeah, I just absolutely loved it. And I'm actually going to do it again. So we'll see what kind of weather. But yeah, I'd say so far it's been the Moab
Mm.
240. And I had a really great race too. So I should throw that
Yeah.
on top. So after won all three, like it was, I didn't get
Mhm.
sick. And actually the cloudier weather, I think actually helped me because normally that race, it can get pretty hot and there's a lot of exposed areas, but with it being cloudy and rainy, I think in some ways it might have actually
Mm.
helped. Wow. So yeah, I'd say that one has been my favorite so
Okay.
far.
All right. Is there a race that you're like, I want to go back and redo because it wasn't my best? Or because you also talked about how you do have one DNF. Would you go back to that race? Okay.
Absolutely. So my one DNF was Leadville. And so that race, I just got done running. This was 2 years, I guess, now. So in 24, I ran the Bigfoot 40 miler. And then 8 days later, I did
Oh,
Leadville
yeah.
and probably wasn't the best idea, but I'd already signed up for the Bigfoot 40 because I'd done it the year before and I wanted to come back and see if I could
Mhm.
win it. And so I ran that race. And then 8 days later, I'm doing Leadville and I was 13 miles into that race and I tripped over a rock and then landed right on my hip on another
Oh.
rock and had to grind it, definitely grinded it
Mhm.
out. I got actually to Winfield, which is the turnaround after you go up Hope Pass and
Mhm.
down. But I was moving so slow. I was about 90 minutes from being cut off, and I knew climbing back up, I was going to get
Mhm.
cut off. And so I decided to DNF. And again, another one of those injuries. I was going to eventually, I was like, because if I climb all the way back up, that means I got to get back to the next
Mhm.
aid station. That's just be so much more
Sure.
painful. And yeah, it's all right.
Well,
So,
and then
so I definitely go back and do that
yeah.
one. And then Bigfoot is another one that I would definitely want to go back and redo because I got sick. So if I can get the nutrition thing
Mm.
again, just some of these races are over 50 miles. I've had some nutrition and hydration problems that we're working on that I'm getting through. And so definitely want to get back to that because I know I can do better. And that's just part of my
Yeah.
competitive nature. But yeah, those two for sure.
I want to say this, and that is kudos for not trying to run through that when you fell on a like when you fell on your hip. Because
Yeah.
I'm thinking, man, I can't believe you didn't fracture something coming down an inch like that and
Yeah.
hitting.
I,
That's incredible. So, way to say, you know what, we got better things to accomplish than trying to finish this. Because I think as runners, as you said, we have this grinding tenacity of I got to keep going, I got to keep going. But I think sometimes we do have to give ourselves some grace and be like, listen, this could be bad and rather safe than sorry. So I appreciate you talking about that.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have to. And that's what I was saying earlier. Yeah, everybody's got their reasons for DNFing or whatever, and especially when it's a leg or knee or foot or something where, yeah, maybe you're doing potentially more damage and it's going to sideline you even further. But the nutrition stuff, it's like a lot of times I tell people in these 200s, especially because the cutoffs can be fairly generous unless you're fighting in the back. But I tell people just make sure you rest first and lay down, try to get a couple hours of
Mhm.
sleep because that's the nice thing about these longer races. You can do that. And then, yeah, and then try to go out a mile or get up, eat some food if you're feeling better, and at least try to go out. Like my coach tells me, go out a mile. And if you still feel the same way, then just come back,
Mm.
but at least give it a shot. And most times, once you get going, you start feeling better. And for me, it's always just get to the next aid station. Then we can reset, we can figure something out if there's issues. And that's one way to approach these 200s or even 100. Just get to the
Yeah.
next aid station
Wow.
and reset.
Yeah, that's good. I like, yeah, yeah. Speaking of, so how do you fuel? Like, how do you like to fuel for your ultras?
Yeah, that's a great question. So being the road runner was always about
Mhm.
gels and all that. And I still do gels, but really in these 200s, it becomes like almost like an eating
Mhm.
contest. And some people are able to train their stomachs and there's pro elite athletes that are out there running these hundreds and literally just doing gels. And I know for me personally, I've trained that doing that, but at some point, especially once I feel like I get around like 50, 60 miles, that's generally where I've started to have
Mhm.
problems. And so I know I have to get more solid food in me sooner. And so I take advantage of the aid station. So if anybody listening hasn't done 100 or 200, they have these aid stations and they're like, it's like a short order grill. It's like they're doing hamburgers, they're vegan burgers or pasta, breakfast burritos, wraps, all these kinds of things. And so it really is about fueling and getting obviously carbs, but also, especially the longer races, getting proteins in you and things like that. So I might do gels early on, but I try to get to solid food as quickly as I can and stay fueled up and hydrated, obviously. But yeah, there's been a few races. I normally don't drink a lot of soda, but Bigfoot in particular, I end up surviving on Coca-Cola and hamburgers.
Wow.
And that's I don't know how much Coca-Cola I drank, but I don't know if it's yeah, it's just like the sweetness. I think the sugar probably ended up being like a
Mm.
gel. And I always like the carbonation. I drink a lot of sparkling water
Mhm.
normally, so I think it's like that and then like the sugar. And so it's a nice combination. So, and I know several other runners out there too, ultra runners that like, yeah, I don't normally drink Coca-Cola, but man, these 200s, I'm drinking tons of it. So I don't know how much I drink, but I drink a lot. So that's how I feel. I don't know. Again, I don't think I've got it down yet, but I'm definitely trying to figure it out. And that's been one of the challenges and why I like the 200s with I want to solve these
Mhm.
things. Okay, what can I
Mhm.
do and test some things out again?
Mm. That's good. That's really good. Do you have a favorite pre or post meal before or after your races?
Oh, that's a great question. I love food. I mean, I'm always down for some pizza
Okay.
afterwards or hamburgers. I'm definitely doing like a lot of
Mhm.
rice,
Okay.
but Yeah, there's a lot of races. Yeah, I'm eating hamburgers, definitely fueling up, getting those glycogens in there and getting some pasta or something like that in me. But I don't know that I necessarily have a
Okay.
go-to. But yeah, I can usually always go for a good hamburger and Coca-Cola.
That's amazing.
And then it's no more Coca-Cola. Then it's get back to my diet, eating good, eating clean.
That's talk about having a cheat meal. You're like, "No, this is what we do."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's why I run all these miles so I can eat whatever I
That's
want.
fantastic. Okay. What is your favorite running item? Like, you will not hit the trails
Ooh.
or the pavement without this item.
That's a good question. Well, we talked about that earlier. On these races, I always carry Erin's
Mhm.
obituary card with me as inspiration. And I'm not a very materialistic person, so I don't with a lot of our stuff. Like I didn't keep a lot of our stuff. Like obviously got tons of memories, tons of pictures, things like that. But I always carry that. A lot of people got to have music. I honestly don't do a lot of
Okay.
music
Mhm.
either. So I think only one of the 200s I actually listened to music. I don't think the other ones I did. So I don't know if I really have a go-to I gotta have.
Okay.
Yeah, I try to go as light as possible. I probably do pack in more than I need, but like always I never want to run out of
Mhm.
water, obviously, things like that. But yeah, I don't know that I have a go-to yet. Maybe I need to find one. Maybe I need something to stick in there. But yeah, it's just the
Mhm.
obituary card for
Mhm.
now.
Yeah. That's a priceless one.
Yeah.
That's priceless. Okay, let's talk about shoes. So, for
Yes.
trails, what do you like to run in?
Yeah, so I use Solomon's I was wearing, but in road running, I've always been a
Oh,
Nike guy. I love Nikes. They've just fit me well. I wear their Ultrafly shoes with the carbon
mhm.
plate, and I do wear their trail shoes. So sometimes I would start off a race in the Solomons, but then they would just get a little too tight because Solomons can be a little narrow. A lot of people that have wide feet they can't wear Solomons because they're known for, but I do have a narrow foot. But with these longer races, your foot I think obviously
Mhm.
swells get spread out. That's always tell you to wear like a half size up. So sometimes I'll start and then I'll switch over to my Nike Ultras, but I've been training more just in the Nike Ultras and they're supposed to be coming out with a new shoe in April. So I'm excited to check that out. Nike is rebranding to their ACG. From what I understand, they're all condition gear. So
Okay.
they're retooling their line. So I'm interested to see what their new trail shoe on the Ultra Flies or whatever they're going to call them apparently Caleb Olson, who won Western States last year, was wearing the
Oh,
prototype.
okay.
So yeah, that's my go-to. Yeah, I don't know. I get weird where it's hard. I've tried on some other
Mhm.
shoes and some demo shoes, but I only run like 4 or 5 miles. But it's one of those don't switch. If it's not broke, don't
Mhm.
fix it.
Yeah, sure.
So, so I try to stick to the shoes. But for whatever reason, when I got into trails, a friend of mine had some Solomons, and I like their little quick zip tie. That's one of the things I
Mhm.
like about their quick tie shoelaces. So I just started wearing those. But yeah, those are the two that I wear.
Nice, okay. So, do you have a favorite running memory or a crazy running memory? Like, when you just think about this memory, it just makes you laugh, or you're just like, "That is such a great core memory of running."
Yeah. I mentioned Moab. Like I said, that was really crazy because of the weather. I mean, sideways rain, just the different memories
Mhm.
there, climbing up Pole Mountain and then seeing snow and seeing all these different things. And I don't know, there's something interesting. I've heard other people say this too. So you go through the LaSalles and there's just a mysterious feeling about the
Mhm.
LaSalles, not necessarily scary, but there was times, and maybe it's just may sound weird to some people, but I almost felt like I was being led through the trails,
Uh,
not like in a bad way, but and maybe again, it's just lack of sleep. And sometimes you hallucinate a little bit, but yeah, it just felt magical out there.
mm.
And so I think that's why I really like that race. And I've heard other people say the same thing. And I don't know if it's just at that point in the race that you're so deep into the race that, your mind's going a million places and maybe you're hallucinating. But I would say that was a core memory going through the LaSalles. I really enjoyed it and just all the crazy weather.
Mm.
And then obviously I mentioned too just about Bigfoot getting sick and then being able to rebound that race, finish really strong on that race and feeling really good at that end of the race after the first 2 days were just awful. So it was really a tale of two
Mhm.
races. And so I would say those are the two that I have the most core memories that I learned a lot about myself. And obviously the first 100 as well. But yeah,
Those are good, and I love that experience is magical because I would be like, "Whatever gets me through, what whatever wants to guide me, and just get me through to the next."
yep. Yeah, I don't know if it was Erin, there's another spirit out there or what it is, but there's something out there.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's switch a little bit to recovery. What does recovery
Yes.
look like for you? So you finish your race. Do you have a favorite recovery tool or a tool that you take with you? What does that look like for you?
Yes, my compression boots.
Oh, yes.
I have the Norma Track compression
Mhm,
boots, and so I have an RV camper van that I stay out of, and so I always go to those and then sleep.
mhm,
I love to sleep. I pride myself in sleep. I try to get as much as I can, and especially after a race, there's just no better feeling. Even though you're
mhm.
hurting, you get cleaned up, and then yeah, I just lay in my van, put on my compression boots, put on some music, and then just chill out and just reflect on what you just did. You just did this amazing feat. And so, yeah, so definitely the compression boots are my go-to after a race. And actually, if I'm being crewed in my van, I'll use them actually during the race as
Mm,
well. Like when I'm down or trying to sleep, I'll put on the compression boots. And yeah, they're just, for me, they're a game changer.
absolutely. Nice. I love compression boots too. I'm with you.
Yes.
Do you have a cross training activity?
I don't have a mountain bike, but I do like to bike
Okay.
occasionally. But a lot of times, one of the things, especially training for these 200s, is just sometimes it just feels good just to go hike. Like
Mm,
I love to
mhm.
hike. I think that's why I like the mountain races, especially like Bigfoot. Bigfoot's 40,000 feet of climbing. I love power hiking. It's this break from the grind of
Mm,
running, but just power hiking up a mountain. I just absolutely love it. So that's what I did a lot this last year in cross training was just time on feet, hiking more and things like that. And yeah, I string train, but yeah, I'm just running, like to be on my feet. I try to keep it simple. I don't have too many other things I do other than running and hiking. So, but like I said, it's a nice relief after just to go hike some miles and just be on your feet. And especially when it's not
mhm.
competitive, there was times where I was doing some hikes where I wouldn't even turn it on my
Mhm.
watch. Like I had my watch on, so it was still counting my steps, but it's like I wanted to get away from thinking about
Yeah.
pace or anything like
Mhm.
that because sometimes I think as runners, we focus on that too much. Maybe not every runner, but I know I do. And oh, I should be moving faster here. And I think that's just all part of the training. That like it's okay. It's more important just to have time on feet than worrying about
Mhm.
pace. So
That's really good advice. Love that.
yeah.
So let's say that somebody's listening to you, Josh, and they're like, I want to get involved in running and I haven't started, or they're coming back from an injury, or let's say that they're like, hey, I want to go into the trails or maybe dabble with an ultra marathon. What is a key piece of advice that you would tell them?
Go for it.
Mm.
Do it. But no, obviously, if you haven't ran a lot or too much, obviously start off small. I mean, I've heard of people jumping from the furthest everyone was a 10K and decided to do 100. I don't know that I would personally advise that, but if that's your intuition telling you, but I always say, obviously start off small, get a 10K in, just get involved. I think that's the thing too. Even if you don't feel like you're ready, just come volunteer at a
Mhm.
race. I
Yeah.
love volunteering. I love showing up for people and just soak it all in. And I think that gets a lot of people. They'll show up to these and I'm not a runner or I heard about this and I wanted to just come check it out. But yeah, start small. If you're coming back from injury, obviously don't rush back
Mhm.
into it. Take your time. Time on feet is
Yeah.
always huge. Just getting out in nature, take it slow. And yeah, just get involved.
Mhm.
This community is very inviting. It's very inclusive, not it's exclusive, inclusive, like it accepts everyone.
Mhm.
And I think too, find even within the ultra running community, you'll find your niche of people that you just identify with, or maybe you got another hobby or something else you're into that you bond together. And yeah, it's just that's what I love about it. And I think too, especially the hundreds and 200s, these longer races, you just spend so much time with people and you really get to know people on a personal level compared to, hey, we're just showing up for this 10K. We're here for a couple hours and everybody goes home. No, you're out here for 3 or 4 days with
Mhm.
people, sometimes even
Yeah.
longer. And so, yeah, I just say get involved. If you're a little bit weary, just show up to a race and volunteer and see how other people. And then I think what you'll see is you'll just see every type of person that runs ultra
Mhm.
marathons because you have obviously your fast front of the pack, but you have people in the back of the pack and they love it and they're just hiking it and they're just having a good time and they're enjoying the company with somebody else and they'll hike 80, 100 miles together and that person will become their friend or
Mhm.
one of their best friends.
Mm. Because I think you nailed that too, is the beauty of that is that you're going through it together. And
Yeah.
especially when you have somebody that they can be like, listen, this sucks right now. This is terrible. You have that other person speaking life into you saying, listen, let's just
Yeah.
keep going. Let's just, as you
Yep.
said, let's just make it to the next rest stop. Let's just get
Yep.
there. And then we get there. Okay, we've rested. Now let's keep going. I love that so much.
Yeah. And I'll add to that is, yeah, and especially it makes those miles go
Yeah.
by quicker
Yeah.
too. 'Cause you just start getting into conversation, then next thing you know, oh, we're at the next
Mhm.
aid station.
Mhm.
You don't realize that because it is a lot to chew off because some people hear 200 miles and they're like, oh my gosh, that sounds insane. And maybe it is. But again, it's those chunks or just it's doing something smaller. And again, it's an endurance race, but that doesn't necessarily even mean running. It's just like you're just getting to the finish
Mhm.
line. And that's what I love about it. And even out here, I mean, there's Ann Trayson's out here. She's a legend and she won Western States 14 times. And she's out here now because she's had some health problems and she's using a walker now, pushing it, and she's going to do 100
Oh,
miles.
wow.
Then you can think, oh, yeah, it's just Ann. But no, but she's had some health
Really?
problems. She's 65 years old now, but she's still out here
Mm.
grinding. And there's that other like 70-year-olds that are out here for 6 days and they're just doing a certain amount of time every day. And so that's why I said you're going to see every type of person out here. You're going to see, sure, the young, fast 25, 30-year-old, but you're also going to see people out here that are well into their 70s that are still out here just getting miles because they love the community. They love accomplishing something when they're doing something healthy and oh, maybe, I don't know, maybe staying up for days, but you're still part of the community and you're doing something fun. What else would you rather? It's like being here and across the years. It starts on the 28th and goes all the way till tomorrow. And you're literally spending the end of the year into the new year, you know, what better way to celebrate,
Mm.
right? New
Yeah.
year.
Wow. Mm. That is talk about goals. Like
Yeah.
goals. I want to be 70, still climbing mountains. That's incredible. Wow.
It's inspiring,
Wow.
absolutely. I see it, I'm like,
Mm.
"Yes," because I wanna be that person.
Absolutely.
Even though I didn't start ultras till my late 40s, I'm like, I see the 60s, 70 years, I wanna be that
Mm.
person, and that's what's encouraging for me, and I get so
Mm.
excited because it's like, it's never over.
Mm.
You can still walk, you can still move, even if you gotta use a walker, they're still out here, or poles, a lot of
Mhm.
people use the
Mhm.
poles, and they're just grinding away.
Mm. That is incredible. We talked a little bit about your goals already, how you want to go back to Moab, go back to Bigfoot. What are
Yep.
your goals? What are they looking like now?
Oh, Alison, I got big goals for
Yeah,
this
let's hear
year.
'em.
So I'll be doing the Black Canyon 50K in February down here in Arizona. Then I'm actually going back to my roots. I ran the Chicago Marathon last year and requalified for Boston. So I'm going to be doing the Boston Marathon
That's
again.
incredible.
And then we're going to get into the crazy 200. So I'm planning on doing at least 5 200s this year. So I'm signed up. I'm actually on the wait list for the Cocodona
Mm.
250. I'm like 73rd on the list right now. Everybody tells me that I've talked to says I'm going to get in because they usually clear about 200
Yeah.
names. So hopefully I'll be doing that. And then I'm going to be doing Tahoe again, Bigfoot again. And then yesterday I just signed up for a new race that's starting this year called the Old Ephraim 200. And that's up in Logan, Utah. So if you want to come run a 200,
Uh,
that's a new one you can come race. It's north of Salt Lake City. So I believe if you had to fly to that one, you'd fly into Salt Lake City. And so I'm going to do that one and then Moab again. And who knows, might throw in another one somewhere, but that's the goals for this year. I just want to keep pushing
mm.
further and see how far I can go back to some races I've done
Mhm.
before and then experience a couple new races that I've never done before. And then, yeah, so that's the plan so
I
far.
think it's really cool that you have mixed in road races along with some trail racing. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I always said I didn't really want to do road marathons anymore, but it's Boston. It's a legendary
Mm.
race, and I've always wanted to go back and do it. So sometimes I'll make
Mhm.
exceptions for certain races, but I definitely more of my focus is definitely going to be on the longer 200s, those type of races. But yeah, it does feel good to go back and do some of these road races and just mix it up a little bit.
That's amazing. Wow. Well, we'll definitely be
Yeah.
rooting for you. That's incredible.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm really excited for this
Yeah,
year.
it's gonna be a big year for you, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what is your favorite length to run? So, whether it's a training day or it's race day, do you have a favorite mileage that you like?
Well, right now, I think it's been the 200s, and people ask me why. Well, I think it's the
Mm.
challenge of them. It's because it's not always just about speed. This is an endurance race. Like you got to get through the next 3 or 4 days. And so you're going to fight sleep. You're going to fight a lot of things like how much do you rest and it's fueling. So there's all these components going on. But then there's also all this flexibility going on too. Like I said, I was 9.5 hours in an
Mhm.
aid station at
Mm.
Bigfoot. and was able to stay in the race and not get cut off. And so yeah, I think it's just the challenge of it right now. And I don't know, sometimes I feel like, maybe it sound weird to say, but I feel like the 200s are easier because there are so much time. But again, there's different challenges to it because the hundreds can be tricky because the cutoffs could be like a Leadville, they can be
Mm-hmm.
tight. And so you really got to keep moving. There's not as much grace in those races where you can't stay in an aid station
Yeah.
forever unless you're well ahead. So that's why I think I like that distance right now. And it may change, but right now I'm definitely into the
That
200s.
is fascinating. Oh, absolutely fascinating, Josh. I love it.
Crazy
That's
fascinating.
fascinating. Okay, Josh, when you're not running, you
Mhm.
have mentioned this and you do talk about in the book, you are in an RV van. So
Yes.
what's been your favorite place to go and set up? Because, like right now, as you talked about, you're out cheering friends on as they run. What has been your favorite place to take the van?
Mm. Ooh, so many great
Mhm.
places. I visited a lot of national
Okay.
parks this
Mhm,
last
mhm.
year, which I hadn't. I grew up in the Midwest. We lived in New York, which I talk about in the book, and then Florida. And so, really, out west, I hadn't been out. I'd been out to San Francisco a couple times, been to Denver a few times, but honestly, I hadn't really explored the West too much. And so, when I decided 2 years ago, I literally got the van 2 years ago. I still had my house in Florida, and I knew I probably wasn't going to stay in the house. So, I ended up last summer, I ended up selling everything and rented out the house. And yeah, so I live full time in the van. And, but yeah, there's so many. I went to Yosemite, I went to Grand Tetons
Mm,
this year. I have one of my best friends that lives up in Montana. I love to go up and visit
mm.
there. But I don't know that I've found a
Okay.
favorite because there's just so many beautiful places out west. But I did realize through this adventure that I love the mountains more than the beaches.
Oh, yeah, okay.
There's just something about the mountains, and I think there's just something about going to places that very few people go
Mhm,
to. You go deep back in these. One of the things I did this last summer is in Montana, there's this place called the Bob Marshall Wilderness, and it's the largest wilderness area in the lower 48. It's just massive. And so we just went out there and hiked for a few
mhm.
days and just, yeah, there's very few people out there and it's just beautiful. But yeah, the van life's been great because I can just show up to races. And I will say I really got attached to the Sierras this year,
Mm.
though. I was down in Mammoth and Bishop. It's been a lot of time out there. That's definitely been one of my favorite places to go.
That's amazing. Now, let me ask you this. Will you drive the van to Boston?
That is a great question. I have actually
Okay.
not. So I'm going to keep the van out west. I will fly out to that
Mm,
race. I have several people, family, and stuff that live in
okay.
the area. So I'm going to fly out to that one. So yeah, I'm trying to keep the miles a little bit down. I've put a lot of miles on the van so far 2 years because it was like, I, I got it. The place that built it out for me is in Vegas. So I had to fly and get it. Then I drove it back to
Mm,
Florida and then came out west and then went back and then back again. So yeah, I'm trying to just keep it out west. So if I'm going back east, I'll probably
mm,
fly, but yeah, just to keep the
yeah,
mileage down. But yeah, keep it out west. And yeah, right now I'm in Arizona. I'll probably winter here and train. And then after Cocodona, I'll probably start venturing back up north and to Colorado and Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Washington,
wow,
California.
that's
So
amazing.
yeah, loving the west right now for
Yeah,
sure. So much to see as well that I haven't even got into
sure.
yet.
Man, that's incredible. When you are running, what fuels you? What are you passionate about?
Like I mentioned earlier, just being
Mm,
outside. I'm an outside person. I love the
mhm,
sun. That's why I love living in Florida. You get a lot of sunny days. Arizona, you get a lot of sunny days. That was one of the things that I'm very grateful for is when Erin passed, just being in Florida, getting the sunshine, be able to still get outside and run. And yeah, that's what I live for. I love to be outside. Love to explore new trails. I'll run a lot of the same ones, but out west, there's so many trails, there's so many places to go. And so that's what I'm passionate about, just finding new stuff and that's what fuels
mm,
me, just hitting the trails. And some things can become mundane, but I always try to just appreciate where I'm at and try to be on the trail, be in the moment. When I think as I get older, it's all about being in the moment, capturing those moments. And so, yeah, so I always try to practice a little gratitude when I'm running. Just it's a blessing and it's a privilege to be able to still run and do this and wanted to keep that going as long as possible and being
yeah.
outdoors.
Oh, that's so good. I want to read a part of your book. Again,
Yeah.
I highly suggest people go in and get moving forward, running with grief. Again, it's like we've talked about is that it's not just, yes, it's a book about your story about running through grief. You talk a lot about how the running community, especially in the ultra world, is that everyone is carrying something with them while they run, and just
Mm,
how we all become connected. And I love how you shared earlier. It's when we share our stories, we carry each other burdens. I think you nailed that. Absolutely truth. One of the things that you said in your book, again, that I just was like, I'm holding on to this, is you talk about being in the Western landscapes, how they've become your
mm,
classroom, that desert mornings taught you about resilience, how life persists and even flourishes in seemingly impossible conditions. Mountain climbs showed you that some challenges required breaking them into manageable segments, putting one foot in front of the other, even when the summit remains hidden in clouds. Forged trails
mm,
demonstrated how growth and decay it coexist, how new life often emerges from what appears to be endings. And
mm.
that is just well, again, I know this is about running, but so much about life right there in that part. And so I just want to say thank you for writing this book. Thank you for sharing your
Yeah.
story. And thank you for being here with us. And do you have any final words of wisdom, Josh?
Yeah. Life is messy. Life is chaotic. I always tell people if somebody is going through grief or going through a challenging time, it's not about fixing the
Mm,
problem. It's about being
mm,
present, just showing up. Showing up for people is the biggest thing. You don't have to say anything. Many times we don't like to see people
yeah.
hurting. And even if it feels awkward and it feels painful for you, and some of us are more sensitive souls than other, and you walk into a room where there's pain and it feels very
Mhm.
uncomfortable. You just have to embrace it. And it's about showing up for those people. But don't ever feel like you have to fix the problem or you're going to say some kind of magical words or anything like that. Because in this moment, sometimes there are
Yeah.
no words. It's just being present, being in the moment. And so I try to just take that into everything. And like you were saying, the landscape, what's interesting about Phoenix in particular, it's about rising out of the ashes. And so when everything feels like your world's been burned down to the ground, it always comes back. The plants come back, the growth comes back. There's still scars. There's
Mhm.
always going to be scars. Grief for me is a scar, but it's just a reminder of that love that we
Mm.
have for the most important people in our life. And so I just tell people remember that. And like I said, if you read this book, I hope it inspires you. Maybe it challenges you to think outside the
Mm.
box. But again, just don't ever feel like you have to fix people's pain. It's just about being present and being there for them.
Oh, so good. Again, thank you, Josh, for the book. Thank you for your story. And thank you for what you're doing with the community and helping people share their stories, open up, and teaching us just to listen, just to be there. I love how you said, just show up, just be there.
Yep. Thank you.
Well, that was a real page turner. Oh, it was so good. Thank you, Josh, for your story and for your heart and for allowing your story to help others heal and what you're doing in the running community, the bright light that you are, for who you are and what you're doing in the running community is just absolutely beautiful. And again, all the nuggets of knowledge that you have, that you've shared with us, the love of the running community that you have, your love for Erin that continues on. It's beautiful and it's inspiring. And I can never thank you enough, Josh, for sharing your story with us, for being vulnerable. And again, guys, go buy this book, Moving Forward, Running with Grief. You're going to love it. You're going to need some tissues because, and again, it's a page turner. I couldn't put this book down. I wanted to know more about Erin. I learned so much about Josh, and it made me appreciate the running community even more and just how grateful I am with all the people that I know and what running has meant to me and what it's done for me and my family. And this book is a great reminder to cherish your people, to live life. And while the stories are scars and you rise from the ashes, you're still going to have that scar. But that scar's story, it's a chapter, and you can help others grow from that. So thank you, Josh, for giving us that example, for being that example, and for loving the running community so well. Thank you again to Gilliard Tech Services for being such an advocate for the running community, for loving Run Your Story, for loving the running community so well as well. Thank you for all that you do. Guys, if you need a website, definitely check him out at Gilliard Tech Services. He is the go-to. Run Your Story would not be here if it was not for Gilliard Tech Services and the amount of love that he pours into the website and editing the podcast. He cares so much. It's always fun to hear him after he's done editing. He's like, wow, it was a really good podcast. Or wow, like that was so interesting. Or he'll start laughing because I've said something silly. And it's inspired him. He's done other races because of people being on the podcast. So incredibly thankful to Gilliard Tech Services. Again, you need a website, you need an updated website. Gilliard Tech Services is your go-to. We absolutely love him. Cannot recommend him enough. 11 out of 11, guys. Definitely check him out. To our Patreon family members, this is your month. We love you. We thank you. We are so appreciative of you because you are so patient with us. And we're 4 years in and you think we'd have it figured out and we don't. And we're incredibly grateful. Our Patreon family members, they take care of us financially with Run Your Story. And for that, we are grateful. And they believe in Run Your Story. They share it on social media. They believe in this podcast and they're from all over. And we're so grateful for that. And I wish I could give you guys the world because you guys absolutely deserve it because you give us the world. And we're incredibly thankful for that. And you can join too if you want to be a Patreon supporter. If you love this podcast, if this podcast has meant something to you, please consider, you can go to Run Your Story and find out more, and you can join the Patreon family member community page. So it's a lot of fun and you get to ask questions. So it's really, really cool. Highly recommend. And as always, thank you to everybody who likes, shares, and comments, who believes in Run Your Story, and who's listening. We thank you so much for that. We hope that these stories inspire you, that they challenge you, that they push you to be better, not only a better runner, but also, more importantly, a better human. So get out there, love your people, and go run, because every story needs to be heard.